Hello and welcome to another Beyond Shakespeare exploring session. Exploring session, not experience. Although it is tempting to say that every single time. I know Rob's not here, so I can get away with that. We're reading Night of the Burning Pestle, Part 2. Well, basically, our Part 2 in this series of videos. We are reading from Act 2, Scene 2, and going to read with me this quite entertaining comedy, as we were told, which is not hurtful to anyone, we hope, or harmful to anyone, are these lovely people. Reading The Wife and the Tapster, we have
Lois in London.
Reading The Citizen and Old Merrythought, we have, possibly caffeinated or not, I don't
know. Lynn, assisted by Scooter, in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Michael, Jasper, and the Host, we have
Steve Longstaff in the northwest of England.
Cool. Everyone's so far away from me. Reading Mistress Merrythought and Humphrey, the sort of, overture lover boy who isn't really getting very far.
Rachel, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Rafe and a Merchant, we have.
Hi, Elizabeth, based in Romford.
And reading Tim and Luce, we have.
Alan, based in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Eric Karoulla, and I'll be reading George and a boy who basically sort of turns up whenever, and pretty much reading all the stage directions and keeping everyone in order, as I hope, because everyone should listen. Anyway, so going from, I'm not sure where to begin with this sort of, how to sort of summarize what happened last time, because it's kind of chaotic. A play began and then a grocer turned up to tell people that, he didn't like the play that was going to happen before it began, and decided to interrupt the play and sort of have his own version of whatever was going to happen. With commentary, of course, on the side. So that's how we end up with Rafe, his assistant, apprentice, being part of the play and basically becoming the knight with the burning pestle, but we don't really know. We haven't seen him as the knight yet. What more do I have to add to this? Help me.
Pastiche is an awful lot of theatre that was current at the time and in the previous 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And the play that was being performed supposedly was called The London Merchant, and it involves a London merchant whose daughter is in love with his apprentice, but he wants her to marry somebody else. And there's also a Mr. Merrythought, who spends all his time drinking and singing, and his wife has just left him, taking their other son, who is the brother of the apprentice in love with the heroine. And I think that's pretty much the cast list so far.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's not complicated at all. Just go back and watch the previous video and then this one. So Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Mistress Merrythought and her son Michael.
Come, Michael, art thou not weary, boy?
No, forsooth, mother, not I.
Where be we now, child?
Indeed, forsooth, mother, I cannot tell, unless we be at Mile End. Not all the world Mile End, mother?
No, Michael, not all the world, boy. But I can assure thee, Michael, Mile End is a goodly matter. There has been a pitched field, my child, between the naughty Spaniels and the Englishmen, and the Spaniels ran away, Michael, and the Englishmen followed. My neighbor Cockstone was there, boy, and killed them all with a burning piece.
Mother, forsooth.
What says my white boy?
Shall not my father go with us too?
No, Michael, let thy father go snick up. He shall never come between a pair of sheets with me again while he lives. Let him stay at home and sing for his supper, boy. Come, child, sit down, and I'll show my boy fine knack indeed. Look here, Michael. Here's a ring, here's a brooch, here's a bracelet, and here's 2 rings more, and here's some money and gold by the eye, my boy.
Shall I have all this, mother?
Aye, Michael, thou shalt have all, Michael.
How likest thou this, wench?
I cannot tell. I would have Rafe, George. I'll see no more else indeed, Law, and I pray you, let the youth understand so much by word of mouth, for I will tell you truly, I'm afraid of my boy. Come, come, George, let's be merry and wise. The child's a fatherless child, and say they should put him into a straight pair of gaskins. 'Twere worse than not grass. He would never grow after it.
Enter Rafe, Tim, his squire, and George, his dwarf.
Here's Rafe, here's Rafe.
Ah, how do you, Rafe? You're welcome, Rafe, as I may say. It's a good boy. Hold up thy head and be not afraid. We are thy friends, Rafe. The gentleman will praise thee, Rafe, if thou playest thy part with audacity. Begin, Rafe, for God's name.
My trusty squire, unlace my helm. Give me my hat. Where are we? Or what desert might this be?
Mirror of knighthood, this is, as I take it, the perilous Waltham Down, in whose bottom stands the enchanted valley.
Oh, Michael, we are betrayed. We are betrayed. Here be giants. Fly, boy, fly, boy, fly.
Exit Mistress Marythorpe and Michael, leaving the box of things that, they had.
Lace on my helm again. What noise is this? A gentle lady flying the embrace of some uncourteous knight? I will relieve her. Go, squire, and say, the knight that wears this pestle, in all honour of all ladies, swears revenge upon that recreant coward that pursues her. Go comfort her, and that same gentle squire that bears her company.
I go, brave knight.
Exit Tim.
My trusty dwarf and friend, reach me my shield, and hold it while I swear, first by my knighthood, then by the soul of Amadis de Gaul, my famous ancestor, then by my sword. The beauteous Brianella girt about me, by this bright burning pestle of mine honour, the living trophy, and by all respect due to distressed damsels, I vow, never to end the quest of this fair lady and that forsaken squire, till by my valour I gain their liberty.
Heaven bless the knight that thus relieves poor errant gentlewomen. And they exit.
Aye, marry, Rafe, this has some savour in it. I would see the proudest of them all offer to carry his books after him. But, George, I will not have him go away so soon. I shall be sick if he go away, that I shall. Call Rafe again, George, call Rafe again. I prithee, sweetheart, let him come fight before me, and let's have some drums and trumpets, and let him kill all that comes near him, and thou lovest me, George.
Peace, little bird, he shall kill them all, and there were 20 more on them than there are.
Enter Jasper.
Now, Fortune, if thou be'st not only ill, show me thy better face, and bring about thy desperate wheel, that I may climb at length and stand. This is our place of meeting, if love have any constancy. Oh, age, where only wealthy men are counted happy. How shall I please thee? How deserve thy smiles, when I am only rich in misery? My father's blessing and this little coin is my inheritance, a strong revenue. From earth thou art, and to the earth I give thee. There grow and multiply, whilst fresher air breeds me a fresher fortune. How, illusion?
Spies the casket.
What hath the devil coined himself before me? 'Tis metal good, and rings well. I am waking and taking too, I hope. Now, God's dear blessing upon his heart that left it here, 'tis mine. These pearls, I take it, were not left for swine.
Exit Jasper with the box or casket.
I do not like that this unthrifty youth should embezzle away the money. The poor gentlewoman, his mother, will have a heavy heart for it, God knows.
And good reason, and reason good, sweetheart.
But let him go. I'll tell Rafe a tale in his ear. She'll fetch him again with a wannion, I warrant him, if he be above ground. And besides, George, here be a number of sufficient gentlemen can witness, and myself, and yourself, and the musicians, if we be called in question. But here comes Rafe, George. Thou shalt hear him speak as he were an imperil.
I think we should just run these two together since they're kind of continuous and then chat. Yeah. Enter Rafe and George.
Comes not the squire again?
Right, courteous knight, your squire doth come, and with him comes the lady and the squire of damsels, as I take it. Enter Mistress Merrythought and Michael and Tim, the squire.
Madame, if any service or devoir of a poor errant knight may right your wrongs, command it. I am pressed to give you succor, for to that holy end I bear my armour.
Alas, sir, I am a poor gentlewoman, and I have lost my money in this forest.
Desert, you would say, lady, and not lost. Whilst I have sword and lance, dry up your tears, which ill befits the beauty of that face, and tell the story, if I may request it, of your disastrous fortune.
Alas, I left £1,000, e'en all the money I had laid up for this youth, upon the sight of your mastership. You looked so grim, and as I may say, saving your presence, more like a giant than a mortal man.
I am as you are, lady. So are they, all mortal. But why weeps this gentle squire?
Has he not cause to weep, do you think, when he has lost his inheritance?
Young hope of valour, weep not. I am here, that will confound thy foe, and pay it dear upon his coward head that dares deny distressed squires and ladies' equity. I have but one horse, on which shall ride this lady fair behind me, and before this courteous squire, fortune will give us more upon our next adventure. Fairly speed beside us, squire, and dwarf to do us need.
And they exit.
Did not I tell you now that your man would do, by the faith of my body, wench, for clean action and good delivery, they may all cast their caps at him.
And so they may, a faith, for I dare speak it boldly. The 12 companies of London cannot match him, timber for timber. Well, George, and he be not inveigled by some of these paltry players, I have much marvel. But, George, we had done our parts. If the boy have any grace to be thankful.
Yes, I warrant you, duckling.
And yes. Well, they don't exit, but they're alone on stage, basically. Any thoughts about this sequence of events? Elizabeth and Lynn and Lois.
Yeah, I thought that today, listening to Rafe yesterday was just so entertaining. I can't remember who played him, but today I was just like, he's a really hard character to kind of place because he's being watched by the citizen and his wife, and he kind of is playing an actor acting, which is really difficult to do. It's just very difficult to know how to kind of pitch it. So Rafe is a very difficult character for me anyway to play.
Lynn. Sorry.
It's funny that you should say that because I didn't feel like you were struggling as a reader. So yesterday he spoke in prose, as I remember, for one thing, and he recited this little bit of a romance. But today he seems, I think, much more into it. It's like, oh, I'm the hero. Never fear, fair damsel, I will rescue you. You know, he's the knight in shining armor, and he's kind of getting into it. I think that he was, I think, a little embarrassed and kind of forced into it by the citizen's wife and the citizen. He's a little like, oh, all right. But now he's starting to enjoy it and see himself in this part as the hero and rescuing damsels in distress, and kind of trying to inhabit that part.
I like the idea that the Mistress Merrythought is a damsel in distress just because she left the money out, among other things that she's done. Lois,
Yeah, actually, I did find Rafe difficult as well yesterday, and I think it was partly because he's going between two worlds, and it's difficult to know how much he's in either one. But today is the first time we really get the two bits of the play interacting. I mean, Rafe causes something to happen in the other story. It's weird because you don't know whether from that point on, Mistress Merrythought and Jasper and Michael are all improvising, or whether something like that was meant to happen. She was meant just to lose the money, and therefore she's still saying the lines she would have said. But Jasper, comes on, and does he just see this and make up a whole thing about, oh, good, I'm going to take this money? I mean, clearly, I'm not sure you're meant even to be able to make it work logically, the points at which he's saying what is in the play, and the points at which he's saying what he's now got to say because of the way Rafe has changed the play. But this is, the fascinating thing really is that as it goes on.
Yeah, it is interesting also kind of how, well, because Rafe is kind of like, suddenly he's like, yesterday he's like, Mom, you're embarrassing me. But now it's kind of like, I am here, do not fear, kind of superhero character. He's put on the cape and the tights, and now he's suddenly magical and superhero-y. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know, the whole thing of, Elizabeth.
Eric, what were you going to say? The whole thing of...
Yeah, no, I'm just fascinated by sort of Mistress Merrythought. We saw her yesterday sort of, favorably treating Michael as the better child, more obedient, so the one with the blessing. And then the blessing is basically lost because she loses the money, and suddenly they're like, okay, what are we going to do now? Alan and Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, and also she does seem to have upped the ante, because I don't think there was any suggestion that there was £1,000 worth of kit in that casket previously. It's a scam on. What can I get in criminal compensation?
Well, there's a lot of jewelry. Could have been worth 1,000, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jasper also mentions like pearls and swine for pearls or something, and then there's stuff like gold and meanwhile, Jasper only has like 10 shillings, which his father counted out very specifically yesterday. Sorry,
he just threw it away because it's useless.
Yeah, pretty much. Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was just saying about the way Jasper just throws that 10 shillings in the street, in the ground, and he says, oh, there, grow. And it just made me laugh about this idea of planting money in the first place. And then also I was thinking about the way different characters respond to money and wealth in the text. You have Jasper, who needs it. He must need it because he's run away from his master as an apprentice. So he definitely must need some cash. And he just throws his in the ground. And then, you have the Mistress Merrythought, who, I don't know, does she just leave in a hurry and leave her casket behind? And then I was just thinking about how she doesn't share that cash with old Merrythought. Maybe because he's going to drink it all away, or because he's going to buy the best meat and just it will be gone in like no time. But I do like the way the different characters respond to money and to wealth in the text.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. And also I was wondering about maybe Stephen or Lois or Lynn will know this sort of the expression, the devil coined himself before me. I'm guessing coined here means like literally money related rather than sort of to coin a phrase. Stephen.
Jasper has kind of been reading Merrythought's self-help book, hasn't he? Kind of like, buy it is trash because something better will turn up, and what do you know? It does.
Yeah.
So I mean, we were talking a little bit yesterday, weren't we, about the kind of signals that are being sent about how things are going to turn out. And this is another one of those whopping big signals which says, yeah, just relax with it. You know, don't worry about whether it's somebody acting or somebody playing acting, because it's all going to turn out all right. Don't stress about it. Do you know what I mean? I think Mary thought is a kind of he's a sort of symbol or a presence, I think, even when he's not on stage sometimes, and it does kind of twine in with the romantic lover plot, or at least the dashing young beau side of it.
Lyndon Lois, yeah.
Yeah, just really quickly, I didn't actually catch the line about coining, but I will say that most often in this period, coining meant counterfeiting. It meant striking counterfeit coins. So I don't know if
because Jasper he sees the casket and goes, "What hath the devil coined himself before me?" And it's like, okay, interesting.
it's real and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Lois. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth's right that it is all about different attitudes to money. I mean, we have the citizen and his wife who are always saying things like, "Give me a penny in the purse while I live." You know, they know that money is important, and Jasper, although he's an apprentice, represents the sort of gentlemanly attitude or the aristocratic attitude. No, money's worthless. We just spend because, you know, as Mary Thought says, it just sort of keeps turning up. And, you know, and of course it doesn't. It's just a totally unrealistic attitude to money, but it's associated with generosity. You know, I mean, citizens are usually depicted as mean-spirited because they care about money, and aristocrats as liberal and gracious because they don't. But the play at the same time, in the same way that Don Quixote does, keeps juxtaposing that with the grim realities. I think we'll get it later in this episode, you know, that you actually do have to have money to pay for things.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, I think it was one of the other plays that we did, one of the, I don't know, maybe Warning for Fair Women or something, or one of the other ones where someone got murdered for money. And you kind of have this moment of, okay, did they steal the money? Sort of, did they possibly, it's probably not that play. But anyway, yeah, you kind of wonder if the law will turn up, which doesn't really matter here. Like in this play, you don't expect sort of the judge to turn up and go, or, you know, a constable or
the police, even in all. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but then since this play seems to allow a lot for, you know, making stuff up as you go along as well. Any other thoughts before I move on? Before we move on, rather. Act 2, Scene 4. Then enter Humphrey and Luce.
Good Mistress Luce, however I in fault am, for your lame horse, you're welcome unto Waltham, but which way now to go, or what to say, I know not truly till it be broad day.
Oh, fear not, Master Humphrey. I am guide for this place, good enough.
Then up and ride, or if it please you, walk here repose, or sit, or if you will, go pluck a rose. Either of which shall be indifferent to your good friend Anne Humphrey, whose consent is so entangled ever to your will, as the poor harmless horse is to the mill.
Faith, and you say the word, we'll e'en sit down and take a nap.
'Tis better in the town, where we may nap together, for believe me, to sleep without a snatch would mickle grieve me.
You're merry, Master Humphrey.
So I am, and have been ever merry from my dam.
Your nurse had the less labour.
Faith it may be, unless it were by chance I did bewray me.
Enter Jasper.
Luce, dear friend Luce,
Here, Jasper.
you are mine.
If it be so, my friend, you use me fine. What do you think I am?
An arrant noddy.
A word for obloquy. Now by God's body, I'll tell thy master, for I know thee well.
Nay, and you be so forward for to tell. Take that, and tell him, sir, I gave it. And say I paid you well.
And he basically beats up Humphrey.
Oh, sir, I have it, and do confess the payment. Pray be quiet.
Oh, get you to your nightcap and the diet to cure your beaten bones.
Alas, poor Humphrey, get thee some wholesome broth with sage and comfrey, a little of oil of roses and a feather to anoint thy back withal.
When I came hither, would I had gone to Paris with John Dory.
Farewell, my pretty nun. I'm very sorry, I cannot bear thee company.
Farewell. The devil's dam was ne'er so banged in hell.
They exit, leaving Humphrey.
This young Jasper will prove me another things, my conscience, and he may be suffered. George, does not see, George, how he swaggers and flies at the very heads of folks as he were a dragon. Well, if I do not do his lesson for wronging the poor gentleman, I am no true woman. His friends that brought him up might have been better occupied a whist than have taught him these feggeries. He's in the highway to the gallows, God bless him.
Oh, you're too bitter, Coney. The young man may do well enough for all this.
Come hither, Master Humphrey. Has he hurt you? Now, beshrew his fingers for it. Here, sweetheart, here's some green ginger for thee. Now, beshrew my heart, but he has a peppernel in his head as big as a pullet's egg. Alas, sweet lamb, how thy temples beat. Take the peace on him, sweetheart. Take the peace on him.
No, no, you talk like a foolish woman. I'll have Rafe fight with him and swinge him up well favoredly. Sarah, boy, come hither.
Enter a boy.
Let Rafe come in and fight with Jasper.
Aye, and beat him well. He's an unhappy boy.
Sir, you must pardon us. The plot of our play lies contrary, and 'twill hazard the spoiling of our play.
Plot me no plots. I'll have Rafe come out. I'll make your house too hot for you else.
Why, sir, he shall, but if anything fall out of order, the gentleman must pardon us.
Go your ways, goodman boy. I'll hold him a penny. He shall have his belly full of fighting now. Ho, here comes Rafe. No more.
And, well, they sort of wait for Rafe. That did not sound weird at all. Just sort of, I like the way that the wife just kind of constantly is the moral compass of the sort of, she's like, you shouldn't beat people up for this. You shouldn't. Yeah. I'm just fascinated by this, sort of interrupting the play and just, getting her away because she's never been to a play before. Or perhaps that's not what she, I don't know. It just seems like they're all humoring her, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Any thoughts before we continue? Rachel is looking for her map of Paris.
Plot me no plots is a bit ironic, isn't it?
Plot me no plot.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Well, we have a collection of those quotes though. We've got "Swear me no swears, star me no stars." There's one in Gammergurden's Needle that I can't remember right now, which is quite fun. Yeah, there's loads of those. Elizabeth, sorry, yeah.
I love the whole get thee some wholesome broth with sage and comfrey, a little oil of roses and a feather to anoint thy back withal. And then there was another bit where she was like, where the wife was like, oh, here's some green ginger for thee. And I was just thinking, like, why do they think that these folk remedies work? You know, where did these come from?
Yeah, the wife has a lot of stuff with her. I mean, she's sort of like these people that bring boxes of chocolates to the theater. I mean, she had some licorice before, I think, for Rafe to, open his windpipe, and now she's got this green ginger. Yeah, you picture her with a huge bag.
Well, it's pretty much the equivalent of the modern equivalent would be the Mr. Bean sketch where he's kind of like taking out the napkin and the sandwich and then the, like piece by piece out of his stuff, and then just sort of, it's not quite as it used to be before he put it in his jacket or something. Rachel, any thoughts on Humphrey? Poor Humphrey gets beaten up.
Poor Humphrey.
No, just it's I don't know. It's just fun. That's all. That's all I got. I haven't drawn any great conclusions from him.
I don't know if there's one to be had, to be fair. He just rhymes with everything. I'm
Mm.
guessing that's sort of the stereotype of like the romantic hero or something in romance plays and that kind of thing.
Well,
Romantic plays.
I think he's the clown, isn't he? I mean, everything he says is so incredibly stupid. Not only that, but sort of just totally the wrong thing to say. I mean, that bit about his nurse, especially. I mean, did you get that? I mean, I did bewray myself. I mean, this is hardly the sort of thing you say to your fiancée if you're trying to make an impression on her.
Rachel has thoughts now.
Yeah, the contradiction between I think the bad rhyme, you know, how not deep what he's saying is with how deep the way he's saying it is, that he's exaggerating so much these things that just make it seem so foolish.
To be fair, Jasper just said, "Oh, you are mine," and then somehow the heroine Luce is magically in love with him. Or well, I mean, they were in love at the beginning of the play, so yeah, it's an interesting interaction. But also, what occurred to me is that Lois said that maybe he's the clown, but kind of clowns usually care about food, money, and something else. So maybe Jasper is the clown or something else, or the sort of, yeah, it's this genre bending that Lynn was talking about yesterday, which is quite interesting. Yeah. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 5, enter Rafe, presumably to beat up Jasper, and Mistress Merrythought, Michael, Tim the Squire, and George the Dwarf.
What knight is that, squire? Ask him if he keep the passage bound by love of Lady Fair, or else but prickant.
Sir, I am no knight, but a poor gentleman that this same night had stolen from me on yonder green, my lovely wife, and suffered to be seen yet extant on my shoulders such a greeting, that whilst I live, I shall think of that meeting.
Aye, Rafe, he beat him unmercifully, Rafe. And thou sparest him, Rafe, I would thou wert hanged.
No more, wife, no more.
Where is the caitiff wretch hath done this deed? Lady, your pardon that I may proceed upon the quest of this injurious knight. And thou, fair squire, repute me not the worse in leaving the great venture of the purse and the rich casket till some better leisure.
Here comes the broker hath purloined my treasure.
Entered Jasper and Luce.
Go, squire, and tell him I am here, an errant knight at arms, to crave delivery of that fair lady to her own knight's arms. If he deny, bid him take choice of ground, and so defy him.
From the knight that bears the golden pestle, I defy thee, knight, unless thou make fair restitution of that bright lady.
Tell the knight that sent thee he is an ass, and I will keep the wench and knock his headpiece.
Knight, thou art but dead, if thou recall not thy uncourteous terms.
Break his pate, Rafe, break his pate, Rafe, soundly.
Come, knight, I'm ready for you. Now, your pestle.
Snatches away his pestle.
So try what temper, sir, you're mortars of. With that he stood upright in his stirrups and gave the knight of the calf in such a knock that he forsook his horse and down he fell. And then he leapt upon him and plucking off his helmet.
Nay, and my noble knight be down so soon. Though I can scarcely go, I needs must run.
Exit Humphrey.
Run, Rafe, run, Rafe, run for thy life. Jasper comes, Jasper comes.
Exit Jasper and Luce. No, sorry, no. Exit Rafe.
Luce, we must have other arms for you. Humphrey and the Golden Pestle, both adieu.
Exit Jasper in this.
Oh, the devil, God bless us, is in this springald. Why, George, didst ever see such a fire drake? I am afraid my boy's miscarried. If he be, though he were Master Merrythoughts' son 1,000 times, if there be any law in England, I'll make some of them smart for it.
No. I have found out the matter, sweetheart. Jasper is enchanted, as sure as we are here. He is enchanted. He could no more have stood Rafe's hands than I can stand in my Lord Mayor's. I'll have a ring to discover all enchantments, and Rafe shall beat him yet. Be no more vexed. It shall be so.
The ring of all power. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. Yeah, it's sort of, this is basically what Lois was saying earlier, that they're starting to influence the plot. Just kind of, yeah, and Rafe gets beaten by Jasper, which is quite interesting. Poor kid.
Yeah,
Sure,
I get the feeling that Jasper just doesn't want his play to be ruined by this guy.
Yeah, probably. I was thinking that Humphrey probably belongs in sort of like the flirting version, well, the bad flirting version of what's it called, Humor Out of Breath, where the boys could not flirt at all, and then the girls pointed this out in the play and just sort of went, well, yeah, you're kind of not worth our time. So to put it mildly, I do like how the wife is like, fight.
Kill him.
Yeah.
Sort of a world wrestling entertainment moment that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts before we move on? Any thoughts on? Stephen.
Oh, just what on earth is going to happen with Rafe now? It's all been plain sailing up to now, hasn't it? He's just been kind of pouncing about the place, pretending to be a knight, and sort of making eyes at the wife or whatever, and now he's got to cope with actually being beaten up in kind of, well, whatever version of real life we think this is. So that it just again, the sort of future orientation of this. I really, really want to know what's going to happen with him. We've had this setup, which is quite kind of, aren't people stupid when they sound like chivalric romances? And this is so generative.
Yeah. And also kind of, I'm just wondering, because obviously we were talking about like, the like sort of things are being introduced, like sort of the casket, the box and so on. I'm just wondering what they're wearing, because like, how big is this pestle, and how exactly do you use it aggressively as a weapon? It just feels a bit like sort of, like these are, I don't know, maybe like in Toy Story where the toys come alive kind of thing, where you've got like sort of life-size toys though. That's because a pestle is just not very big. I guess if you hit someone over the head with it though, maybe, I don't know. Other suggestions on a postcard? Lois.
It's probably a giant pestle. I don't think it's a realistic size. You notice the way Rafe also picks up the rhymes, that Humphrey's speaking in rhyme, and so Rafe goes into rhyme. Again, this is highly improbable if you were imagining them all improvising, but it's just part of, I guess, the way he picks up that world. And then, of course, Jasper starts talking as if he were reading from the same romance that Rafe was reading from when we first met him yesterday in the grocer's shop. So they both know that world, and obviously Rafe is parodying it. I mean, Jasper's parodying it.
Yeah, and well, he does sort of, take the make out of him by going, yes, let's see what temper your mortar is of, and all that stuff, which is such a good line. I feel kind of sorry for Rafe though, sort of getting beaten up and dragged into this play and then beaten up. I mean, I guess that's what happens, if you disrupt the play, just expect to be beaten up. But maybe
Well, he was going to beat Jasper up. I mean, that's what the citizen and his wife wanted. So I think he's the aggressor, probably.
Yeah, but also it's kind of that thing of we want them to, I guess you need complications in a plot so that, you know, the underdog feels justified when he actually beats up Rachel. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that as this play's gone on, Jasper, who I think in any other play would be the hero, has more and more people jumping on him. I mean, Mistress Merrythoughts after him, his brother's after him, Humphrey's after him, the wife and the citizen are after him, Wraith's after him. He's got like what is the one where they're all running through the doors? They're all running through the doors and then people are coming through the other doors, you know, that they used to do on Scooby-Doo. That was this is what it like seems like at the moment for him. And I don't know, maybe I'll be surprised and it turns out Jasper's like, I mean, it'll end, I think, still with Luce and Jasper together, but I feel like there's some they're taking the mick out of them, I guess, for being the hero and the heroine in this one.
Yeah, I guess also it kind of depends what type of play. Like if you place Jasper in a morality play, then he would just end up being dragged away by the vices and then sort of, you know, get carried away and then sort of being put in place, you know, like in The Disobedient Child or something, you know, you can't marry for love, that's outrageous. And same would go for Luce. Yeah. I think, but obviously if you had a romantic play, then he would totally be the hero. Yeah. Any thoughts before we move on? Any other thoughts, rather? Yeah, no thoughts. I figured you just want to find out what happens next. I know. Act 2, Scene 6. Enter Rafe, Tim, his squire, George the dwarf, Mistress Merrythought, and Michael.
Oh, husband, here's Rafe again. Stay, Rafe, let me speak with thee. How dost thou, Rafe? Art thou not shrewdly hurt? The foul great lung he's laid unmercifully on me. There's some sugar candy for thee. Proceed. Thou shalt have another bout with him.
If Rafe had him at the fencing school, if he did not make a puppy of him and drive him up and down the school, he should ne'er come in my shop more.
Truly, Master Knight of the Burning Pestle, I am weary.
Indeed, mother, I am very hungry.
Take comfort, gentle dame, and you, fair squire, for in this desert there must needs be placed many strong castles held by courteous knights. Until I bring you safe to one of those, I swear by this my order ne'er to leave you.
Ah, well said, Rafe. George, Rafe was ever comfortable, was he not?
Yes, Duck.
I shall ne'er forget him. When we lost our child, you know, it was strayed almost alone to Puddle Wharf, and the criers were abroad for it, and there it had drowned itself but for a sculler. Rafe was the most comfortablest to me. Peace, mistress, says he. Let it go. I'll get you another as good. Did he not, George? Did he not say so?
Yes, indeed did he, Mouse.
I would we had a mess of pottage and a pot of drink, squire, and we're going to bed.
Why, we're at Waltham Town's End, and that's the Bell Inn.
Take courage, valiant knight, damsel, and squire. I have discovered not a stone's cast off an ancient castle held by the old knight of the most holy order of the Bell, who gives to all knights therein to entertain. There is plenty of food, and all prepared by the white hands of his own lady dear. You have 3 squires that welcome all his guests. The first, High Chamberlain, who will see our beds prepared and bring us snowy sheets where never footman stretched his buttered hams. The second, High Tapster, who will see our pots fulfilled, and no froth therein. The third, a gentle squire, Ostler O'Height, who will all palfrey slick with wisps of straw, and in the manger put them oats enough, and never grease their teeth with candle snuff.
That same dwarf's a pretty boy, but the squire's a groundnel.
Knock at the gates, my squire, with stately lance.
Who's there? You're welcome, gentlemen. Will you see a room?
Right, courtiers and valiant knight of the Burning Pestle. This is the Squire Tapstrow.
Fair Squire Tapstrow, I, a wandering knight, height of the Burning Pestle, in the quest of this fair lady's casket and wrought purse, losing myself in this vast wilderness, and to this castle well by fortune brought, where hearing of the goodly entertain your knight of holy order of the bell, gives to all damsels and all errant knights, I thought to knock, and now am bold to enter.
And please, you see a chamber, you're very welcome.
And they exit.
George, I would have something done, and I cannot tell what it is.
What is it, Nell?
Why, George, shall Rafe beat nobody again? Prithee, sweetheart, let him.
So he shall, Nell, and if I join with him, we'll knock 'em all.
Oh, George, here's Master Humphrey again now that lost Mistress Luce and Mistress Luce's father. Master Humphrey will do somebody's errand, I warrant him.
Father, it's true in arms I ne'er shall clasp her. She is stolen away by your man Jasper.
I thought he would tell him.
Unhappy that I am to lose my, sorry, merchant.
Unhappy that I am to lose my child. Now I begin to think on Jasper's words, who oft have urged to me thy foolishness. Why didst thou let her go? Thou lovest her not, that would bring home thy life and not bring her.
Father, forgive me. I shall tell you true. Look on my shoulders, they are black and blue. Whilst to and fro fair Luce and I were winding, he came and basted me with a hedge binding.
Get men and horses straight. We will be there within this hour. You know the place again?
I know the place where he my loins did swaddle. I'll get 6 horses, and to each a saddle.
Meantime, I'll go talk with Jasper's father.
And they exit severally.
George, what wilt thou lay with me now, that Master Humphrey has not Mistress Luce yet? Speak, George, what wilt thou lay with me?
No, Nell, I warrant thee, Jasper is at Puckridge with her by this.
Nay, George, you must consider Mistress Luce's feet are tender, and besides 'tis dark, and I promise you truly, I do not see how he should get out of Waltham Forest with her yet.
Nay, Coney, what wilt thou lay with me that Rafe has her not yet?
Oh, I will not lay against Rafe, honey, because I've not spoken with him. Oh, but look, George, peace, here comes the old merry gentleman again.
And well, yes, we interrupt the action to continue with our thoughts. Yeah, no, that's backstory for the wife with the child. I missed what was going on there, but what Lois, yeah.
Yeah, well, the child is lost. They do find it, obviously, but nearly drowned in the sculler. Somebody, in a boat saved it, apparently. But the real point of it is, of course, Rafe's consoling reply, of which she doesn't get the double meaning. I'll get you another as good, which is really, it's also a joke about cuckoldry. I mean, that he could have cuckolded her husband, and begot another child. I mean, it's a very typical kind of joke about city people.
Yeah, that's not.
But it is weird how you think it's going to be this actually very sweet story about how there was this distressing episode and Rafe was there for them and he's there kind of making heartless body jokes. It's such a weird that did not go where I thought it was going to go.
Yeah. Well, it's weird too, because you don't really know even whether Rafe is unaware of his own double meaning. I mean, she's unaware of the double meaning. It's kind of a double joke. They're very fond. I mean, I keep coming across this in Eastward Ho, which is the play I'm working on. That particularly city characters, particularly women, keep coming out with really bawdy lines, but you're not sure that they even know they're bawdy. And I think quite often they're not meant to. It's a particular kind of humor.
Yeah.
So maybe we can imagine Rafe saying, as an innocent, maybe actually pre-adolescent, he might not have been even of age at that point, saying, "It's okay, mistress, I'll get you another one. It'll be just as good." Not like innocently and not realizing how that could be interpreted.
Yeah, well, he's got to be at least 14, because I think that was the age at which apprenticeships began.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Oh, okay. So he couldn't.
Rachel
couldn't-
and Stephen, I think.
No, I started breaking out laughing at that part because I thought what we were gonna get is one of those think the child's dead, but it turns out they're still alive, and like they come back and there's that reunion. And I thought, wouldn't it be like something like the actor playing Jasper or something is actually their child who they've been railing against this entire play, and wouldn't that be funny? But it was just a body joke, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I expected actually too. Elizabeth, then Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say well done to George, because he had a pretty big speech in this piece. And the line, "Our pots full filled and no froth therein," was that a bit of a rude one? Or was that just me?
It could be both. I think it's like a sort of, beer, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. The others must. Yeah. Sorry, Alan, then Rachel. Yeah, I'm clearly this is adjacent thoughts. Sorry, Stephen, then Stephen, then Alan, then Rachel.
It's a boys' play as well, isn't it? Which complicates it even more. So we can kind of forget that reading it, but the intention was that you wouldn't forget that watching it, I suppose. And I was struck by the wife giving things away. That of course she's giving kind of sweeties to little boys, isn't she?
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
Of course. But also, she's a grocer's wife. She has access to all this. I was wondering while we were reading that, and then it just it occurred to me she has access to all the food. Yeah. Sorry, Alan, then Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the froth with the tapster is simply a gag against barmen of all generations, giving short measure. But I think looking for logic in this play is probably the second sign of madness.
It does have internal logic though, because as soon as sort of the wife asks for something, it starts to happen, which is kind of interesting. Rachel, you had a thought.
Oh, no, I thought it was like a joke about chamber pots or something. Do they have those yet?
Oh yeah.
Definitely. We had them last week as well in Tamer Tamed, so which is around the same time, I think, if I remember correctly. I say last week as if you know when you're watching this video, but you don't know when you're watching this video. So yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on? Also, I'm just wondering what they're wearing. I mean, okay, we've had the giant pestle, we've had sort of, I don't know, just yes. I have many questions about how this could be staged. Answers on a postcard. And of course, I'm looking at Lynn for the costuming, because Lynn is has experience with costuming.
I think it would be funny to put Rafe in something that's sort of kind of a ridiculous take on medieval knighthood. Maybe exaggeratedly colorful, or party colored in a way that's not I mean, even that mix of colors, that party color thing, was actually a thing in medieval times that even dignified people wore, but you could overdo it. Like I'm like wearing, he's just sort of got everything on, and it just clashes in this really obnoxious way. But on the other hand, he never really leaves the world of, he's also, at the same time, he's got a foot in the world of the city comedy and in the world of the grocer and his wife. So yeah, what does Rafe look like? What does Rafe wear? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I was thinking that it would be quite funny if his whole outfit was made up of recognizable bits from the grocery store. And, I mean, it would probably have to be a modern grocery store, but one of those cylindrical porridge oatmeal containers on his head, and you can sort of see how you could put it all together from various boxes and tins and so on.
Yeah, he's got like a washboard for a breastplate, like
Yeah.
Well, it would basically be sort of Rafe from what's his name? From the one where they assault sort of Lady Christian Constance's house with Mary Greek and so on.
Oyster doister, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, where you kind of assume that he's got some sort of bin lid for a hat or something as a helmet. Sorry, Rachel also seemed to have a thought at that moment.
No, is the pestle like a giant pestle? Is it is that? Oh, because I was gonna say, I wonder. There's that Russian folktale of Baba Yaga who she rides on the giant pestle and those things like that, and I don't know if there's any connection somehow to like those fairy tales or things like that, and that, or maybe it's just evocative of that sort of quality of these older plays and the pastiche, that there is that a little bit of romance and ballad and fairy story quality to them.
Well, I think the mortar and pestle are also a phallic symbol. I mean, that's what they're doing here, among other things.
Yes, Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, clearly, but anything that you would burn, like a torch, is going to be oblong. So it's obviously, yes, that it's obviously phallic, but at the same time, it's also really ordinary. It's something every kitchen would have had. So it's doing both those things at the same time. We're sort of taking this ordinary household object and making a symbol of medieval knighthood out of it, or trying to. How successfully is a question.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's kind of like, well, whatever they had at hand, kind of like I think we read Narcissus, sort of small interlude that was Christmas interlude or something called Narcissus, where they kind of had a bucket for a fountain because they didn't have anything else. And it's kind of, I think you could use that shambolic quality, sort of like, yes, this is what kind of like Rachel suggested in the previous session, where whatever costumes you have, you use. Therefore, you might have someone in a dragon costume, in a Barney costume, in a Big Bird costume, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, sorry, I'll be quiet now. Okay, Act 2, Scene 8, before I say anything more weird. Enter old Merrythought.
When it was grown to dark midnight and all were fast asleep, in came Margaret's grimly ghost and stood at William's feet. I have money and meat and drink beforehand till tomorrow at noon. Why should I be sad? Methinks I have a dozen jovial spirits within me. I am 3 merry men and 3 merry men. To what end should any man be sad in this world? Give me a man that when he goes to hanging cries, "Troll the black bowl to me," and a woman that will sing a catch in her travail. I have seen a man come to my door with a serious face and a black cloak, without a hatband, carrying his head as if he looked for pins in the street. I have looked out my window half a year, and after spied the man's head upon London Bridge. 'Tis vile. Never trust a tailor that does not sing at his work. His mind is nothing but filching.
Hey, mark this, George. 'Tis well worth noting. Godfrey, my tailor, never sings. And he had 14 yards to make this gown, and I'll be sworn, Mistress Pennystone, the draper's wife, had one made with 12.
'Tis mirth that fills the veins with blood, more than wine or sleep or food. Let each man keep his heart at ease. No man dies of that disease. That he would his body keep from diseases, must not weep. And whoever laughs and sings, never he his body brings into fevers, gouts, or rheums, or lingering of his lungs consumes, or meets with aches in the bones, or catarrhs, or the gripping stone, but contented lives for aye. The more he laughs, the more he may.
Look, George, how sayest thou by this, George? Is not a fine old man? Now, God's blessing on thy sweet lips. When wilt thou be so merry, George? Faith, thou art the frowningest little thing when thou art angry in a country.
Enter the merchant.
Peace, Coney, thou shalt see him look down too, I warrant thee. Here's Luce's father come now. As you come from Walsingham, from the Holy Land, there meet you not with my true love, but by the way as you came.
Oh, Master Merrythought, my daughter's gone. This mirth becomes you not. My daughter's gone.
Why, and if she be, what care I, or let her come, or go, or tarry?
Mock not my misery. It is your son, whom I have made my own, when all forsook him, has stolen my only joy, my child away.
He set her on a milk-white steed, and himself upon a grey, and never turned his face again, but bore her quite away.
Unworthy of the kindness I have shown to thee and thine, too late I well perceive thou art consenting to my daughter's loss.
Your daughter, what a stir's here with your daughter? Let her go, think no more on her, but sing loud. If both my sons were on the gallows, I would sing, down, down, down they fall, down and arise they never shall.
Oh, might I behold her once again, and she once more embrace her aged sire.
Fie, how scurvily this goes, and she once more embrace her aged sire. You make a dog of her? You will. She cares much for her aged sire, I warrant you. She cares not for her daddy, nor she cares not for her mammy, for she is my lord of Lograve's lassie.
For this thy scorn I will pursue that son of thine to death.
Do, and when you have killed him, give him flowers in the palmer, give him flowers enow, give him red and white and blue and green and yellow.
I'll fetch my daughter.
Oh, I'll hear no more of your daughter. It spoils my mirth.
I say I'll fetch my daughter.
Was never man for lady's sake, down, down, tormented as I, poor Sir Guy, day derry down. For Lucy's sake, that lady bright, down, down, as our man beholdeth I, day derry down.
I'll be revenged by heaven.
With that oath, they exit severally. This is such a cheerful way to deal with problems when they come up. It's like, yes, you're gonna kill my son. It's fine. Also, I'm guessing that Sir Guy references to Sir Guy of Warwick, or is that just me?
I don't know that particular ballad. I mean, I do recognize a number of the ballads in there, and that down, down, down bit is actually, I think, isn't it Dowland's? Is it In Darkness Let Me Dwell? It's a song anyway, and it has that down, 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 I fall and rise, I never shall. Was it Lacrimae? It was a very famous song.
Interesting. Alan, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's drawing on all sorts of song and ballad traditions, and basically just taking the mickey out of all of them. And to a certain extent, it's almost Merrythought going, la 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 la, I can't hear you.
That's actually quite accurate. But also, I do like his internal monologue, sort of external monologue / soliloquy to us, where he's like, yeah, why should I be sad? Life is good. But yeah, Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, I wonder how this flies. I wonder how this lands with a real life audience. Because I think you could easily find one could find oneself losing sympathy for Merrythought a little bit. His utter failure to engage meaningfully with other characters is maybe starting to be a little off-putting.
Rachel.
I don't know what kind of character type you would call it, but the way that old Mary Thought is talking is like in The Last Unicorn, that book, the way the butterfly talks with her, that it's just very evasive, and it's I don't know, very I don't know what it means, or what kind of character or what the goal for the character of old Mary Thought is, except I guess his own enjoyment. But it's an interesting, I don't know, there's also something almost nihilistic about it, maybe a little bit like that one soldier we had in Alarum for London, where there is that aloofness that's doesn't match the situation.
Stephen. We cannot hear thee. Good.
Sorry. I wonder if he's just practicing non-attachment, you know. It's kind of, in the sense that actually he knows it's a comedy, because life is a comedy, everything's a comedy. It's all going to turn out all right, and this is a reprehensible attitude for a sensible adult to have. But on the other hand, in this play, he is actually kind of right. And in the meantime, we get the word, you know, the phrase jukebox character sort of springs to mind. You can imagine this playing quite interestingly if we were doing a contemporary version, because we'd instantly get the songs. You know, we would immediately get from a snatch of song that whole shed load of connotations that we have to sort of scrabble around to try and reimagine now. But you can imagine that working in the service of that as well. So I mean, one of the points about comedy as a genre, or as a philosophical point of view, is that actually, you know, none of it matters. None of the individuals matter really. It's the big picture. And he's, you know, you don't want a big picture parent, do you? But there is a kind of respectable philosophical tradition behind it.
Lynn, yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea. I'm intrigued by the idea of doing a kind of modern version of this. I mean, I'd be a terrible person to pick that, because, you know, I don't listen to popular music, and I wouldn't know what's catchy and what's on people's what's in people's heads now. You know, I would want to do like all like fun 80s pop tunes, you know, it's like the Bangles and stuff, you know, walk like an Egyptian, you know. It's that's my age showing, but you know, also 80s music was just really sort of poppy and kind of shallow, and it's kind of what I like about it. So I don't know what you would pick today that would be really recognizable. The thing is, you know, your audience would presumably span generations, so you'd have to have things that they would all recognize. So you'd really have to have someone with their finger on the pulse of popular culture.
Yeah, I guess you would have sort of, I don't know, things like Staying Alive, and then sort of skipping to Billie Eilish or something, or for, yeah, probably showing like sort of Rachel is looking skeptical about that. But yeah, sort of, yeah, pointing to the chat, of course, going Gangnam Style. I mean, that would work, because he'd be very, you know, up to date with things. Yeah, I don't know. There's a part going, I'm liking him, but also kind of, yeah, he could totally just moonwalk across the stage, and we'd be fine with that, because this is a comedy. And also he's probably being played by a young man anyway, so moonwalking would just be fine. He would pull it off, and we'd be like, oh yeah, totally, he can totally do this. But technically they both have questionable parenting methods, because, like, you know, the merchant was like, yes, take me to Humphrey, take my daughter, elope with her, do something, I will help you. Whereas, you know, Mary Thought is like, yeah, do whatever you want. Really, you do not want to be one of these two extremes. I mean, I'm guessing. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Interlude 2, music.
How dost thou like this, George?
Why, this is well, Coney, but If Rafe were hot once, thou should see more.
Oh, the fiddlers go again, husband.
I know, but this is scurvy music. Now I gave the horse some gallows money, and I think he has not got me the way to Southwark. If I hear him not anon, I'll twinge him by the ear. You musicians play Baloo.
No, good George. Let's have Lacrimée.
Why, this is it, Coney.
Ah, it's all the better, George. Now, sweet lamb, what story is that painted upon the cloth? The Confutation of St. Paul?
No, lamb, that's Rafe and Lucrece.
Rafe and Lucrece? Which Rafe? Our Rafe?
No, mouse, that was a Tartarian.
A Tartarian? Well, I would the fiddlers had done that we might see our Rafe again.
And cut. Just before we move on, I just have a quick question because I'm not sure. They're like painted upon the cloth. Is that like sort of their equivalent of a program, or just?
No, it's the backdrop.
Yeah, painted cloth. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it really is a painted cloth.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course, Confutation of St. Paul should have been Conversion of St. Paul, and Rafe and Lucrece is the Rape of Lucrece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I should. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. To be fair, it's a poem at the time.
Well, yeah, it's also a play actually, which I think might date from this period by Haywood, in which there is a character who does an awful lot of singing. His reaction to the horrible state that Rome is in is to sing all the time. That's the justification for him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mary thought might be trying to do that also.
Yeah.
Rachel is looking puzzled.
I was just gonna say, I don't know why that's. I mean, there might. I know a certain somebody did write a thing about that, but I feel like that's still a bigger thing, just because that's the change of the Roman kingdom into the Republic, isn't it? Like history-wise, that it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the Fulgence and the Lucrece, which is a completely different comedy, but I mean,
Yes.
it has a similar device in that the two A and B turn up from the audience. So, which is completely irrelevant. What's a Tartarian, by the way, since we're here?
What did they mean by that?
Rachel, sorry.
The Tartars.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, but I wonder what she really means, or what he really meant to say. Barbarian, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
My edition says Sextus Tarquinius.
Tarquin. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Lucrece connection.
I see.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, moving on to Act 3, Scene 1. Back to hopefully Rafe at some point for the wife. Enter Jasper and Luce.
Come, my dear. Though we have lost our way, we have not lost ourselves. Are you not weary with this night's wandering, broken from your rest, and frighted with the terror that attends the darkness of this wild, unpeopled place?
Oh, my best friend, I cannot either fear or entertain a weary thought whilst you, the end of all my full desires, stand by me. Let them that lose their hopes and live to languish among the number of forsaken lovers tell the long, weary steps, number time, start as shadow, and shrink up their blood, whilst I, possessed with all content and quiet, thus take my pretty love, and thus embrace him.
You have caught me loose so fast that whilst I live, I shall become your faithful prisoner and wear these chains forever. Come, sit down and rest your body, too delicate for these disturbances. So, will you sleep? Come, do not be more able than you are. I know you're not skillful in these watches, for women are no soldiers. Be not nice, but take it. Sleep, I say.
I cannot sleep. Indeed, I cannot, friend.
Why, then we'll sing, and try how that will work upon our senses.
I'll sing, or say, or anything but sleep.
Little mermaid, rob me of my heart with that enchanting voice.
You mock me, Jasper.
They sing.
I don't. Tell me, dearest, what is love?
'Tis a lightning from above. 'Tis an arrow, 'tis a fire. 'Tis a boy they call desire. 'Tis a smile doth beguile.
The poor hearts of men that prove. Tell me more. Are women true?
Some love change, and so do you.
Are they fair and never kind?
Yes, when men turn with the wind.
Are they froward?
Ever toward those that love to love anew.
Dissemble it no more. I see the god of heavy sleep lay on his heavy mace upon your eyelids.
I am very heavy.
She sleeps.
Sleep, sleep, and quiet rest crown thy sweet thoughts. Keep her from fair blood distempers, startings, horrors, and fearful shapes. Let all her dreams be joys, and chaste delights, embraces, wishes, and such new pleasures as the ravished soul gives to the senses. So my charms have took. Keep her, you powers divine, whilst I contemplate upon the wealth and beauty of her mind. She is only fair and constant, only kind, and only to thee, Jasper. Oh, my joys, whither will you transport me? Let not fullness of my poor buried hopes come up together and overcharge my spirits. I am weak. Some say, however ill the sea and women are governed by the moon, both ebb and flow, both full of changes. Yet to them that know and truly judge, for these but our opinions are, and heresies to bring on pleasing war between our tempers, that without these were both void of after love and present fear, which are the best of Cupid. O thou child, bred from despair, I dare not entertain thee, having a love without the faults of women, and greater in her perfect goods than men, which to make good, and please myself the stronger, though certainly I am certain of her love, I'll try her, that the world and memory may sing to after times her constancy.
Draws his sword.
Loose, loose, awake.
She wakes.
Why do you frighten me, friend, with those distempered looks? What makes your sword drawn in your hand? Who hath offended you? A pretty Jasper, sleep. Thou art wild with watching.
Come, make your way to heaven, and bid the world with all the villainies that stick upon it farewell. You are for another life.
Oh, Jasper, how have my tender years committed evil, especially against the man I love, thus to be cropped untimely?
Foolish girl. Canst thou imagine I could love his daughter that flung me from my fortune into nothing? Discharged me his service, shut the doors upon my poverty, and scorned my prayers, sending me like a boat without a mast to sink or swim? Come by this hand, you die. I must have life and blood to satisfy your father's wrong.
Away, George, away. Raise the watch at Ludgate and bring a mittimus from the justice for this desperate villain. Now, I charge you, gentlemen, see the king's peace kept. Oh, my heart, what a varlet's this to offer manslaughter upon the harmless gentlewoman.
I warrant thee, sweetheart, we'll have him hampered.
Oh, Jasper, be not cruel. If thou wilt kill me, smile and do it quickly, and let many deaths appear before me. I am a woman made of fear and love, a weak, weak woman. Kill not with thy eyes. They shoot me through and through. Strike, I'm ready, and dying still, I love thee.
Enter the merchant, Humphrey, and his men.
Whereabouts?
More of this now to myself again.
There, There he stands with sword like martial knight, drawn in his hand. Therefore beware the fight, you that are wise. For were I good Sir Bevis, I would not stay his coming, by your leaves.
Sirrah, restore my daughter.
Sirrah, no!
Upon him then.
They attack
So,
Jasper and wound him.
down with him! Down with him! Down with him! Cut him in the leg, boys! Cut him in the leg!
Come your ways, minion. I'll provide a cage for you. You're growing so tame. Horse her away.
Truly, I'm glad your forces have the day.
And exit everyone except Jasper.
They are gone. And I am hurt. My love is lost, never to get again. Oh, me unhappy! Bleed, bleed, and die. I cannot. Oh, my folly! Thou hast betrayed me. Hope, where art thou fled? Tell me if thou beest anywhere remaining, shall I but see my love again? Oh no, she will not deign to look upon her butcher, nor is it fit she should. Yet I must venture. O chance, or fortune, or whate'er thou art that men adore for powerful, hear my cry, and let me loving live, or losing die.
Exit Jasper, presumably stumbling off the stage for, first aid.
Is he gone, George?
Ay, Coney.
Marianne, let him go, sweetheart. By the faith of my body, has put me in such a fright that I tremble, as they say, as toward an aspen leaf. Look at my little finger, George, how it shakes. Now, in truth, every member of my body is the worse for it.
Come, hug in my arms, sweet mouse. He shall not fright thee any more. Alas, mine own dear heart, how it quivers.
Well, see, you turn around for 1 second and then that happens. Someone is dying. Anyway, I did not, I have to admit, I did not expect that. I mean, I expected many things, but this was not one of them. And also, Rafe has not turned up yet. He didn't turn up to beat up Jasper. So I'm guessing there's a part of me going, yes, that's why we're keeping Jasper alive. He has to be beaten up by
Rafe's at the inn.
Yeah.
He's spending the night there.
Yeah. It's dark. It's scary. And so Jasper decides to murder Luce.
He decides to test her.
Yeah.
Pretend he's going to murder her and
Yeah.
see how she reacts.
Yeah, what a clever idea.
As one does.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. But there was a part of me going with the sort of sharp sword thing, drawing the sword. Is that just like another euphemism, or is that just me? Yeah, sorry, Stephen had a thought.
Does it kind of take the sting out of that almost immediately? I think it was Lynn who mentioned wrestling. This is kind of the sort of WrestleMania thing with the wife here.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of, don't worry everybody, it's all kind of, your mind is taken off it. You're easily distracted by this play, I think. And it's kind of like, before anyone gets too far down in the dumps, let's turn it into something else quickly.
Yeah, you get that impression, and also I do like the sort of interaction between the wife and George. Going, is he gone? Can I look? Sort of looking through like all fingers. Yeah, Lynn.
Right. I think Stephen has a good point that the wife's idea is to call the watch reminds us that this isn't real. That it's just a play. You don't need to call the watch. He's not really going to harm her. But then a moment later, both the wife and the citizen are like, oh gosh, that was so upsetting. Like my heart is beating. And that's just sort of endearing that they're so distressed. They're so emotionally engaged with this scene that they're both really quite agitated. So I continue to be impressed by the kind of complex emotional response this play evokes from us.
Rachel.
I think Lynn said it yesterday, just like how sweet the wife is. These are two such sweet people. They're so fun. I think they're so fun. And the things that they have said. I mean, if this was real life and I was in the theater with them, I think they would be annoying as hell. But I think that also brings out part of their sweetness within the play. That she's got all this food she's giving out. There's so much action and play that they're giving. Yeah, that there is always this little scene break for their flirting with each other too.
Yeah. There's a part of me going, yes, she's kind of adorable, but she's also asking someone to be beaten up, which is kind of, he totally deserved that. No, Lois.
Yeah, her attitude's a bit funny, actually. I mean, she thought Mary thought was an idiot when he first appeared, and then she really quite liked him at the end of that speech, and she suddenly started telling George that he ought to be more like that, which was, I thought, very odd.
And also the bit about the tailor was my tailor doesn't sing. He's probably robbing me as we speak.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the last scene for this?
I wonder if that's a joke. Well, Lois's observation made me think, I wonder if that's sort of deliberate, that the wife and the citizen always react kind of the opposite way as a typical as we would. So Mary thought is maybe starting to grate on us a little bit, and she's charmed by him.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the joke about my tailor charged me for 14 yards of fabric to make this gown I'm wearing, and my neighbor only had to pay for 12. What's going on there? And maybe if she's just really quite a large person, no, there's a reason for that, honey. But we don't.
Rachel. Yeah, I was thinking of that yesterday, but then I was like, fat phobia. But then, Rachel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say about that part. I think it's also I think that's also a wonderful little bit of dialogue with the tailor and the dress, because it has nothing to do with the rest of the play. So it's like it just came to her moment, and she's not even talking about the play anymore. She just turns and she's like, "Oh, I've got to tell you this. I forgot to tell you this before we came in. Hold on a second."
No, it's a helpful tip she picked up from Mary Thought, that never trust a tailor who doesn't sing at his work. He says Mary Thought. She thinks, hey, my tailor doesn't sing at his work. QED.
Make a note. Okay, Act 3, Scene 2. Enter Mistress Merrythought, Rafe, Michael, Tim the Squire, George the Dwarf, host, and a tapster.
Oh, Rafe! How dost thou, Rafe? How hast thou slept tonight? Has the night used thee well?
Peace now, let Rafe alone.
Master, the reckoning is not paid.
Right, courteous knight, who for the order's sake which thou hast ta'en, hangest out the holy bell, as I this flaming pestle bear about. We render thanks to your puissant self, your beauteous lady, and your gentle squires, for thus refreshing of our wearied limbs, stiffened with hard achievement in the wild desert.
Sir, there is 12 shillings to pay.
Thou merry Squire Tapstero, thanks to thee for comforting our souls with double jug, and if adventurous fortune prick thee forth, thou jovial squire, to follow feats of arms, take heed thou tender every lady's cause, every true knight and every damsel fair, but spill the blood of treacherous Saracens and false enchanters that with magic spells have done to death full many a noble knight.
Now, valiant knight of the Burning Pestle, give it to me. There's 12 shillings to pay. And as I am a true knight, I will not bet a penny.
George, I prithee tell me, must Rafe pay 12 shillings now?
No, nothing but the old knight is merry with Rafe.
Oh, it's nothing else. Rafe will be as merry as he.
Sir Knight, this mirth of yours becomes you well, but to requite this liberal courtesy, if any of your squires will follow arms, he shall receive from my heroic hand a knighthood by the virtue of this pestle.
Fair knight, I thank you for your noble offer. Therefore, gentle knight, 12 shillings you must pay, or I must cap you.
Look, George, did I not tell thee as much? The Knight of the Bell is in earnest. Rafe shall not be beholding to him. Give him his money, George, and let him go suck up.
Cap Rafe, no. Hold your hand, Sir Knight of the Bell. Here's your money. Have you anything to say to Rafe now? Cap Rafe.
Yeah, I would you should know it. Rafe has friends that will not suffer him to be capped for 10 times so much, and 10 times to the end of that. Now, take thy course, Rafe.
Come, Michael, thou and I will go home to thy father. He hath enough left to keep us a day or two, and will set fellows abroad to cry our person casket. Shall we, Michael?
I pray, mother, in truth my feet are full of chilblains with travelling.
Oh, Faith, and those chilblains are a foul trouble, Mistress Mary thought. When your youth comes home, let him rub all the soles of his feet and his heels and his ankles with a mouse's skin. Or if none of your people can catch a mouse, when he goes to bed, let him roll his feet in the warm embers, and I warrant you he shall be well. And you may make him put his fingers between his toes and smell to them. 'Tis very sovereign for his head if he be costive.
Master Knight of the Burning Pestle, my son Michael, and I bid you farewell. I thank your worship heartily for your kindness.
Farewell, fair lady, and your tender squire. If pricking through these deserts, I do hear of any traitorous knight who through his guile hath light upon your casket and your purse, I will despoil him of them and restore them.
I thank your worship.
And exit Mistress Merrythought with Michael. And that's all the time we have for this session, which is actually quite convenient. In the middle of the scene, basically. So, well, probably not the middle, but anyway. So any thoughts? I mean, aside from breaking the play by paying someone's bill, any thoughts on this scene and this, what we've done so far? Lois, then Lynn.
I guess
Sorry, my bad.
I think it's a sort of series of improvisations, isn't it? Because obviously, since Rafe has wandered into this world, I think the tapster and the host have too. I mean, they've kind of been created to fit into Rafe's play. They're not part of the London merchant story. So they're all kind of making things up. They're behaving, in fact, very much like in Don Quixote, where you suddenly discover that you actually have to pay a bill if you stay in an inn, that it's not like a castle where you're free of charge. But then they all kind of ignore the citizen and his wife, don't they? Because they just don't know what to do with them. I mean, they keep acting as if they weren't there rather than responding to them, because they don't know what to do with all these extra improvisations. I mean, it's just a layer on layer of crazy things happening.
Then Rachel.
I was just wondering about the amount of the bill. Actually, 12 shillings seems like quite a lot. Because a pound is 20 shillings. Yeah, so it's like more than half a pound. That's actually quite a bit of money when, a pot of ale is only a couple of pence.
Well, there must have been, 5 people staying there?
Oh, there were 5, because there's the 2 attendants plus Mistress Merrythought and Michael and Rich. So that's I was thinking it was the 3 of them, but there are 5.
And they all had something to eat and drink, I imagine, too, as well as
a room for the night. So
yeah.
I love how they're trying to find the logic in this, but yeah, it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are we even talking about this?
Rachel and Alan.
Right.
Rachel.
I mean, the thing is that Lynn is straining at 12 shillings for the tavern bill, but seemed to let the £1,000 in the casket go by with no adverse comment.
I see. I think your guess was right that it was probably closer to £100 worth of stuff.
I suspect nearer 10.
There you go. Yeah.
I think she has numeracy problems. It's London counting. one,
Sure.
2, 3, many lots.
You probably got that from Hobbes in, If You Know Not Me or something.
Yeah.
Hobbes,
Well, it's
Hobson?
standard, and it was still in existence in London in the 80s.
Yeah. Rachel, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I think from the ignoring what the wife and the citizen are saying, you still have fun reactions there, because like the stick his fingers in between his toes and then smell them, like that's like what? Like there's no way that you could keep a straight face with that, somebody saying that to you. And I wonder if it's like I feel like some of this play must be like, because there's so much clowning in it, that there's got to be so many clowns in this, that they're trying to make the other person break during the entire thing. So it's like comedians trying to out comic each other. And I think there's a lot of reactions that you could get, not just from other actors, but from the audience.
Yeah, and also that part, I think it was the sage and comfrey bit, and there's a part of me going, does that actually make a good soup, or does that make poison? I don't know enough about herbs, but like, yeah, there was a part of me going, does she just carry things around? Anyway, yeah, sorry, Lois, then Alan.
Yeah, one of the best bits of non-interaction is probably when Jasper is about to kill Luce in the play, and the wife starts yelling for help, and Luce completely ignores the fact that help is on the way, or that she could be rescued, because she wants to play her big tragic scene. And this is Jasper and Luce's best scene, and they're determined to do it. And meanwhile, these people are trying to ruin it for them by stopping the murder.
Yeah. Alan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that the smelling the fingers, yes, is a good gag. But it wouldn't surprise me if there wasn't some sort of folk remedy circulating somewhere alongside the comfrey stuff, alongside a number of the other factors, which was out there in the general mishmash of folk remedies, and some of which, have become foundations of modern medicine. The willow bark for headache, which was a folk remedy and was mocked for years, but the active principle is actually the same as aspirin.
Yeah, I guess also it's kind of like it's like with the songs where, with the ballads that were in this, it was probably like not exactly accurate, or, sort of misquoting the recipe kind of thing. So if you don't take the right sort of, ingredients, you might end up with diarrhea, for example. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm not entirely sure about smelling the fingers, but yeah, it just sounds like, oh yes, and sort of but I do like the wife's approach, sort of being the helpful wife that she is, trying to sort of like, what's it called, like neighborly almost, sort of. Yes, let me help you with this, dear. Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah, just speaking of that willow bark, and what you said, Eric, I actually took it because they sell it in capsules, and I actually took it for migraines, and it was the most sick I have ever been in my entire life. And that kind of is weaned me completely off home remedies. I just take the normal paracetamol now.
Hopefully that works.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. There's a part of me going, like, instead of, if you want to modernize this, instead of just like sort of having all the random herbs and stuff, you just have her, with different, like different medications, like sort of going, yes, and you should take this for your back, and it's like, no, you shouldn't. You should not. Rachel.
I mean, for like in America, there a lot of holistic like vitamins and things like that. They're in a lot of these, like, I don't know, folkish remedies that you can still buy off a shelf. They're not really regulated because they don't claim to cure anything really. So there can just be really anything in them. So you could really have somebody pull all that stuff out, just like the mixing of these things, the detox teas and the like I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there are loads of those somewhere. Not just in America. I think there's lots of sort of like, also cases of fraud where you've got like doctors prescribing things that don't actually work or might kill the patient. Dead on arrival kind of thing. But yeah, this play is very quick. I mean, we've moved from sort of being on the cliffhanger of what's going to happen with this play to, I mean, I don't know, act 3. I don't know how many acts it has in total yet, because I'll read them.
5.
Yes, thank you.
Standard.
Good guess. Yeah.
But yeah, it's moving along very quickly. So, and very like sort of you don't have time to catch what's going on. So I'm assuming that the scenes run into each other rather than sort of scene break, lights out, scene break, lights out kind of thing. Yeah. So any other thoughts about this play, about potential stagings, about sort of, because I know people have seen it, but obviously other interpretations are available. So Lynn.
There we go. So this is kind of my final thoughty for today. So I wonder if I detect a little bit of a shift in mood today, a little bit. I mean, yesterday, I think the beginning of this play is so wacky and so fun and just so playful with the meta theatricality and the sort of naive charm of the citizen and his wife and so forth. But today there were some moments that were maybe a little less enjoyable. Like I said, Mary thought maybe it's starting to get on your nerves a little bit. The fact that he's so uncaring when the merchant seems to be genuinely distressed about his daughter's elopement, and that scene where Jasper decides he's going to test to see if Luce really likes him. That's a little unsavory. That's a little uncomfortable. So I wonder if we're supposed to be feeling that. And it's like Stephen was saying, like, how is Rafe going to get out of this? He was a little bit of fish out of water when at the beginning, and then it's like, oh no, I guess I'm going to get into playing the brave knight. But there really isn't a script. So he's how does he get himself back out of this into the world of his master and the master's wife? Like, how does he get back to the citizen and his wife, basically his mentors, the people who he lives with? So there's a little bit of an Alice in Wonderland quality to it today, that it's a dream and it's goofy and it's crazy and it's funny, but it's also a little bit of a nightmare, that the sense that we're not entirely in control of this and we don't know exactly where it's going, is maybe there's just a little bit of anxiety laid over the fun today.
Stephen looks pensive and has many thoughts, I'm guessing.
Well, sometime last year I saw an online production of it. I don't know if anybody else did, by Cheek by Jowl, who highly regarded. And they really went to town on that kind of interpretation of it, Lynn. And somebody who actually likes the play, it was excruciating eventually, and they had to cheat, because they went full on to this kind of like, what is reality anyway, and let's look at what's underneath all of this. And the frog died, as it were. I mean, it was, you could appreciate that as a kind of intellectual exercise. And if I didn't know the play and didn't have expectations of the play, I would have found it really, really interesting anyway. But because I knew the play, I was incredibly frustrated by it, even though I could see, a bright director and kind of clever actors were going, oh, let's play with this. But, as I say, for me, the frog died.
Yeah, Rachel. Sorry. And then Lois.
I don't know. I really feel like usually I'm not one for farces, and this seems pretty farcical. But I've really been enjoying this so far. And to what Stephen said, I think Chekhov, like he meant a lot of his stuff to be very funny and very humorful, and he meant them to be like almost farcical. But the company he worked with were like, no, this is actually, you know, serious drama, and you know, so there's a lot of stuff that Chekhov's not really, I guess, played up for its comedy. I haven't seen that many productions for it, you know what I mean? But like the couple I have, they're not super up on the humor stuff. But I mean I don't know, maybe it's just like it's meant to be the jokes you get. And I feel like that one scene with the sword and him taking out that sword seems so much like Patient Griselle, or whatever that one with the marquee is, that just drove us all insane. That it's like, to see it in this fashion and made fun of is a little relieving, because it's annoying in a serious play like Patient Griselle, where the message is a woman should be obedient and, you know, all these things. That there is some relief when it comes in a pastiche farce, you know, making fun of it, saying that's irrational.
Those, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think that scene is a parody. It's a parody of a lot of stuff that goes on in plays in this period, especially actually in plays by Fletcher, who absolutely loves scenes where men draw their swords on women, men wound women, even in Philaster, which was a big success. And what's interesting to me is, I hadn't thought of this before, but this play used to be always attributed to Beaumont and Fletcher. Now people have done authorship tests and so on, and they're convinced that it's only by Beaumont. But it really reads to me very much like a collaborative play. I mean, when we read plays where we've got several different plots and sometimes they work together and sometimes they don't, you know, you can think, well, this is one author and now suddenly we've got something by another author. And I mean, if it's not a collaboration, Beaumont must be imitating Fletcher or parodying Fletcher at that point, even though this was his best friend apparently, and they wrote a number of plays together. I don't know, it does seem to be almost sending up even the whole idea of a theatrical collaboration, where in this case, a non-collaboration, where the different strands are not coming together.
Alan, yes.
I must admit, as with many of the sort of the Beaumont Fletcher corpus of work, which seems to involve multiple people over a very extended period of time, I wonder whether, in fact, what we've got is a version that's come down to us from, you know, the 1630s even, where other people have sort of dabbled with the thing to, you know, it's been, quotes, improved over time in performance by a whole variety of different hands. And, oh, yes, well, when we played it last year in wherever, that bit worked, so we'll up that one a bit. I think the answer on Lynn's point, in some ways, while this session has not worked quite as well as maybe the first one did, is that basically the one gag, the whole meta setup, was pretty well thoroughly started off in part one. They're now trying to sustain it. So it's not a question of new gags. And I get the impression that things like Merrythorpe may well have been almost drop-ins of, oh, fine, Fred, you're good at doing the drunken old idiot who can sing a bit. You know, go on there and do your number. Now, how that will change over the remaining half of the play is an interesting question. But I have a feeling that trying to ascribe any of that corpus of work to a sole authorial voice is possibly a route to madness. The other thing I think is that if played at pace, an awful lot of these discontinuities and absurdities would disappear.
Yeah.
You know, it would be whoosh, what happened there? Oh, I don't know, we're on to the, you know, that was 3 sequences ago.
Yeah, it's very much like what we were discussing in the previous session, where I think we discussed like a sort of Singing in the Rain, where you're like, how did that, what, where, why? By the time you walk out of the theater, you don't know what's happened.
Yeah.
Lois. Yeah.
And you've read The Old Wives' Tale, haven't you? I mean, that one seems to me rather similar to this, you know, the just totally irrelevant people wandering in and out. And And that's a single author play. In a way, perhaps you do need to have just a single author to keep so many different balls in the air, you know, and deliberately create this sort of collisions that happen here.
Yeah, that could be it. To me, like if you took it like sort of in the context of modern theater, it seems more like a devised piece where you've got like sort of parts of improvisation and then sort of building on those. But obviously, it depends on, I don't know if that practice sort of existed back then or not. Yeah, so it kind of seems interesting as a piece also, just because it has so many, it refers to so many other plays and contexts and stuff. Finding like, for example, where we were talking about finding pop songs for Merry Thought and so on, like finding the appropriate song for each piece would be quite difficult, I think, and also finding someone who could sing them badly or you know, well, depending on the performer, is actually quite yeah, would be difficult also. And yeah, any other thoughts since we're here rather? Rachel seems pensive and is hovering over the button. No. Rachel
Elizabeth is waving, I think.
Yeah. Elizabeth, sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this whole authorship question. And I just feel like somehow, personally for me, it feels like almost sacrilegious to say it's not Beaumont and Fletcher, it's just Beaumont for this one. And I was wondering why, what Steve's version in his gloss that he has says, who it attributes, because it feels like such a collaborative work. It doesn't, I don't know about anyone else, but it doesn't feel to me like it's one person writing.
Now we have elevator music.
Well, it depends on the date of your edition, because I mean, older editions attribute it to Beaumont and Fletcher, but more recent ones, I think, just attribute it to Beaumont, right?
The bane of all academics, Wikipedia, has changed. They've changed it from Beaumont and Fletcher to just Beaumont. So I was just like, oh no. So they must have.
But that's down to the last person to edit that page.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I suppose also it's kind of
that happens occasionally. I mean, they revise. The scholars have revised who they think wrote the Revengers tragedy. They attributed to Middleton now, and it used to be attributed
Cyril Turner.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's also questionable authorship of many of Marlowe's plays, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of, yeah, I don't know if authorship is important at this point, but I mean, Stephen, please answer a question. We're dying to know.
Well, my edition is a 60s edition by Mick Hathaway, which is a great edition. So, but it's just, it says Beaumont on the front. I have a feeling when I first started using it way back when, it might have said Beaumont and Fletcher, but he goes back to a character called Cyrus Hoy, who is I think the 1940s. So I have no idea what has been done since the 1960s on this, but it seemed settled to Mick in the 1960s. So.
I'm just wondering, sort of, because like we've had playwrights write for specific performers and types of performers. Therefore, like here, you don't really get a specific. It's what Alan said yesterday. It's a very ensemble piece, kind of. You don't have a specific star vehicle kind of thing. I mean, yes, you've got the wife and the citizen framing it, and Rafe, of course, who must be wonderful at everything but isn't. But yeah, Rachel, yeah.
I really feel like this must have been like performed by Saturday Night Live or something of like the era, you know what I'm saying? Because it really does have that quality of there are parts where, like, you know, as people are reading, naturally you crack up from these lines. And I think depending on how fast they had to churn out this play, you know, from script to getting it on stage, you could have a lot of that chemistry still there, a lot of that energy still there, and just I don't know, the people who don't crack and stay in it completely, that just makes them want to go after them more. And then the people who do crack, there's something I think there competitively for clowns or comedic actors, that they do want to see that breaking of other things. And even, when somebody on stage breaks in a play like this, I think that does elicit a reaction out of the audience, especially if they've been able to keep it up for so long.
Stephen, yeah.
Well, just to add into that Beaumont was quite a young guy when he wrote this. He's only in his kind of early to mid 20s, and he's basically been a student all his life. It's kind of gentry family. He goes I think it was Oxford, and then he goes to the Inns of Court, and then ends up being this massive playwright before he's 30 with Fletcher. So it's a young man's play. I wonder if the performers were actually up to it, in a sense. I think it's one of the kind of, we're kind of dizzied and dazzled by it, aren't we? I wonder how much the boys' company he wrote it for were able to find the things in it that we can find in it. I have a feeling, others will probably know, I have a feeling that it didn't do very well first time round, but 20 years later, it's kind of a classic and gets revived a lot.
Yeah, I think that I think there was a note for the printer or somebody that people missed the privy mark of irony in it, and it's difficult to see how you could possibly miss it if irony meant what it means now. But so it could well be that you're right, that it may have been the acting, that the boys couldn't contain, keep a consistent level. I mean, I think the whole idea that Rachel was suggesting of the whole company playing it, everybody trying to make the other people crack up, is actually quite fun, because I can imagine, I mean, in so many parts of this, it would lend itself to really zany bits of improvised crazy behavior. And it was sort of what was going on, in fact, in the Wanamaker production. I mean, certainly the guy playing George was doing all sorts of zany things that were not in the script, although he was probably doing the same thing every night, but the audience was certainly corpsing, and I think it could have made the actors do the same thing at times. I mean, it just is, it's a very, very funny play, but it is in some ways quite difficult to do, I think. I mean, because of these different levels and this whole question of exactly what are these actors in the so-called straight play supposed to be doing, while the people in the Rafe play are doing their thing, and then while the citizen and his wife are commenting on the whole thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I think this postdates the Lily stuff that we did, which was written for boys' companies.
Oh, yeah.
And there were a number in there which had similar sort of tropes, which you got the feeling that, they were subset stuff that was rehearsed maybe separately and then pulled together, last minute.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I guess if this was built on Q scripts, which I hope it wasn't, because it sounds very difficult to do, it would be really sort of high energy. And any other thoughts before I close the session? I guess not. On that note, wilt thou be so merry? When wilt thou be so merry, George?